So when we're talking about the restaurant, Bistrot Zinc as is, I know that the Southport location was around for how long?
We owned the property, and we sold it in 2002, and laughingly said, "Oh, great! It's the only money we'll ever make in the restaurant business because we owned the real estate." But it was a much bigger concept. It had several rooms. It had a more casual cafe in the front, and a bigger dining room, and it had a party space. And so it was really a different vibe and much different to operate than this little gem is.
Right.
And I was turning 50, and I was getting married, and I wanted one good marriage and one good restaurant, and thought that it would serve both of those goals if we did indeed sell that property and we had one restaurant. And I had always loved this because it's small, it's got 100 seats, and you can see everything, and guests and staff can see you. So you walk through this restaurant, and anybody who might need you can see you, and anything you want to see as an owner, you can see.
Right.
So I loved that aspect of this.
Let's talk about the decor in here, including the bar. There's been much to be made about what's going to happen with all of this stuff after we close, and we'll get into that later. But as far as how this was decorated, where did the ideas come from? How did you make that happen?
We actually took our architect to Paris. He's a great guy named Jim Lencioni at Aria Architects, and he had never been to France. And although in those days, this was really, this was the second restaurant that he designed for us. But in 1995, when we took him to Paris, you would build your vision with an architect, with magazine, tear-outs from magazines and music and descriptors of any sort that you could get your hands on. And we just felt like we were going to put enough money into our first location that we should just take him to Paris. So we took him to Paris. I think we were there for 4 days. We ate probably 6 meals a day, and we took him to all sorts of bistros around Paris. So this is a quintessential French bistro look, from the decorative tile floors to the beautiful yellow walls, lots of artwork, windows that open up onto the street. They're all French. And we had some favorite restaurants that we lifted a few ideas from. So we have some beautiful hand-painted ceiling fixtures that we took from one concept, and we had our ceiling lights fabricated based on some in a wonderful restaurant called a bistro called Elard in Paris. So this is a very French look. The art belongs to both Lance and myself, and everybody wants to know if it's for sale, and sadly it is not. There are lots of staff who would love to leave with a piece of art, and I want some of it back, and Lance wants some of it back. So when we close, we will do a sign-up sheet and invite the staff to come in and, tell us what they want.
Well, the news broke, I guess, officially in April, sometime with an article on eater.com. Online it broke. But I know that the staff knew a little bit earlier.
Yes.
And I know it was a very tough decision for you, and it still is a very tough, very, very tough situation.
We've all seen me cry a lot.
Absolutely. We know that you wear your heart on your sleeve regarding this.
It's true.
Before we get into the questions that we got a lot from guests regarding, why doesn't she sell and all these other things, what has surprised you the most about the reaction? Did you have an idea about the impact that you've had on this area before the news broke?
Yes and no. What has surprised me the most is that it's very public. I knew that in our little community of Bistrot Zinc that people would really feel the loss. But I'm shocked by the public nature of it. It often feels to me that all day long, all I do is thank people for their kindness in telling me what the bistro means. And it has been overwhelmingly gratifying. And this is always where my voice catches. You're getting used to that. It's an extraordinary way to end a career on the high of people being so appreciative of something that you've always loved and something that has brought me, so much joy.
Yeah, the letters that poured in. I know you got a lot of handwritten letters from some of the clientele here, and I know that you've read some of them to us. I felt that was some of the bigger compliments that we could get. I mean, we get compliments all day long.
Yes.
I know, but some of them were so eloquent,
Yes.
and heartfelt,
Yes.
that I think we all got emotional.
Yes, yes, and I haven't read all of them to you, and I'm remiss in that. I think that it can't be understated that at the end of the day, if you're in the restaurant business, it's an old-fashioned word, but you're in the hospitality business. You know, we're in the business of making it a little bit nicer for whoever comes in the door. And I've always found that to be fun. I mean, I've always found it to be fun to walk through my own restaurant and chat with people and see people smiling. And, you know, there have been times when, you know, I've gone through my own restaurant and said to somebody who may or may not know me and say, you know what? I'm not loving the way that plate looks. Can I have that plate? And off I go.
Right.
And it's quirky, but I am lucky enough to be beholden to no one in the investor department. And so I don't have to check my behavior.
And that's part of the charm.
And I hope that's part of the charm, Dan.
Well,
I guess that remains to be seen.
Right. Well, I think that the public has answered that question.
Yes.
They love the charm. They love what you built here, and I know that you've called it your warm blanket many a time. When you walk in here, it's your warm blanket.
It is. It is. I mean, it's been the happiest 20 years of my life, and I've had a pretty great life, and a lucky life, and a terrific career. But I have loved this and all of you a lot, and it's made me proud and happy, and you know, I will miss it every day.
I know you will. You let us know that often.
Yes.
So let's get into the questions.
You're afraid I'm going to cry, aren't you?
I thought about the movie Jerry Maguire where they always make every athlete cry on his interview show. I hope Casey doesn't cry.
God.
But I know it's sometimes hard to control, especially right these days. And I just want to get into the questions that
Sure.
we get.
Yes.
There's a lot of misinformation out there.
Let me have it.
We've heard of. So, why don't you sell the restaurant?
Okay. Here's a very small tutorial in restaurants. Restaurants are personal, and people open restaurants because they have their vision of what will be perfect at 1131 North State, or wherever you want to put your restaurant. You have a vision. I have been approached by 10 or 11 people to buy the bistro, but the bistro is really not for sale. If somebody who was an operator came to me, if you and 4 other waiters said to me, we want to buy the bistro, we want to keep it Bistrot Zinc, we know somebody who, will be the chef if Tim doesn't want to stay, I'd say, great, this is how we'll do it. And I would consult for you, and I'd be the happiest person on the planet. But that hasn't happened. There's a lot of weight to owning a small business. It's financial weight, and it's administrative weight, and legal weight, and certainly employment weight. We've been very lucky because people have stayed a long time for the bistro. Some of the people here have worked for me, as you know, for 20, 25 years. But you don't always get that lucky. And I didn't want to sell it just to sell it. And I certainly didn't want to sell it. I live in the neighborhood too. I didn't want to sell it, come in and find, lemongrass chicken on the menu and have my head spin off. That would be most unfortunate.
Yes.
So the short answer is that it really isn't for sale. And people don't understand it. They think that I'm gonna all of a sudden do a pop-up or something, or that there's something they don't know. But it is unusual. I will grant that. It's not unusual for a lease to be over, as ours was, or it will be on August 31st. But it's unusual, perhaps, to close a business that's as successful as this.
Right.
And I understand that, and I understand why people are curious, but I am 67, and it felt like the right time for me.
Right.
And that doesn't mean I won't miss it every day, because I certainly will. But it also doesn't mean that it's not the right thing to do.
The beauty of the windows, right?
The beauty of the windows. A fruit fly's buzzing around my head.